Hello, everyone. So today there's actually a pretty good news from Arturia for the MicroFreak. There's been an update that brings vocoder in the MicroFreak. Not just in the hardware one, but also the virtual one, the MicroFreak V. So I'm going to demo everything with the MicroFreak hardware. You'll be also able to see the virtual version. The features are somewhat the same, outside of the fact that you have a hardware connection to make on the dedicated hardware. And in the software, you could assign a track to send audio to the Minifreak. So let's just dive in. I was pretty much guessing that this would come one day when they release the Minifreak without the vocoder, just because the MicroFreak has a vocoder in it. So the question was, when will it be available? So now it is available. And it appears in the digital effects section. So as the digital effect, you can now affect any sound that is made by the different oscillators and go through this. And there's two versions. There's the self vocoder. So it's basically just a vocoder effect. And then you play with the formant to make it sound like a voice, but it's not a voice talking, or it's not an input coming in, which is less interesting for me. The one vocoder we'll talk today much more is the external, meaning you're going to process something coming from outside of the Minifreak itself. So there's many different things you need to know when you start. The fact that if you want to use hardware, there's going to be some adjustment inside it. Of course, you're going to use the connector at the back, which is a input, the audio input you use. You're going to go Shift Utility, and then go into audio. And audio, you're going to go into input mode. Input mode, you have a choice of microphone or line in. I'll try two of them today. I'm using the microphone right now. I think there's some type of a preamp in there. It has to be a microphone that doesn't need a phantom power. So you just click microphone. If I click line, well, it means it's coming from another sound. That is a line level unit, like my drum machine, which I will try after. And you'll see that vocoder is not just for voice. It was designed first and foremost for voice, but anything can go through a vocoder, and it can be really, really weird. Go outside of this, and then you go into gain. So input gain is going to be useful, especially for the microphone, to decide how much you want gain on your microphone, depending on the sensitivity of the microphone and the proximity that you have from the microphone, to be able to get the right volume. New preset. So I've got now a new preset, default. Okay, I just have my raw sound. Then I go to the digital effect, FX1. I'm going to turn it on. And the last two ones now are vocoder self and vocoder external. So I'm going to use the vocoder external. So you don't really hear anything. So in the vocoder, you have three control. You've got the time, which is the decay itself.
If I talk like that, you can't understand what I'm saying. If I talk like that, you can understand. But if I change the decay, is it and the formant.
Imagine going from the voice box being smaller, like a child or a woman, depending on where you start from. And if you go lower, it's like having a bigger voice box.
And the last one is
basically having direct sound. So now I can hear it directly through this. So if you could sing inside the synthesizer and mix
between your clean voice and the vocoder. Whereas if you go full in, you only have the direct sound now. You have the effect now. It only works
when you press. It only works when you press. If you don't, then it doesn't trigger. Now, let's explain a little bit what a vocoder is. There's a multi-band filter on it. Let's imagine that's what it is. And the different bands are controlled by what they call the vocoder. So each of the bands control a section of the frequencies of the original sound that I'm playing, the synthesizer sound. I would call it the carrier, the sound that carries this signal, it's the one that we're listening. Then the other one is the modulator, the voice, the input, the other sound. It could be something else than a voice. It could be a guitar, could be a drum, could be a bass, could be another synthesizer, could be a flute, whatever it is. The other sound coming in will shape the reaction of these multi-bands. So depending on what's coming in, it's kind of having for each of the multi-bands an envelope fuller. So as the frequency come in, they're going to trigger the attack, top, and they're going to drop. So it's going to shape the sound depending on how many bands you have in your vocoder. So very complex vocoders have a lot of bands. Like kind of each frequencies could be a solo controlled if you want. But most time they're grouped into groups of many frequencies. And that's why there's different options here. If you look closely, here on the screen you see clean, and here if you press shift and you turn it, you're going to have a choice of clean or vintage or narrow or gated. These are different ways that the vocoder will react, not just react, but be basically. The clean is the one that you hear the most, the modulator coming in. It's the most defined one, more clean one. It's the one that there's most chances that you'll hear and understand the words.
Clean. What's the clean one? You can hear them talking through this. It sounds electronic, and the sound will change depending on how the synthesizer is being changed.
So if the synthesizer becomes something else, it's going to also change the way that other sound is happening. If I'm changing to another sound.
Hello, this is my voice going through the synthesizer. So you hear the synthesizer sound, but this is still using the clean one. The clean, and the clean.
Now if I stay on that sound, I change to the vintage. The vintage a little bit more muffled.
It sounds more like old school vintage.
So it's a little bit less understandable.
But still, it's gonna be good for the back vocal. If I have to sing through that, it's gonna be interesting. I don't have to know I'm gonna play this thing. If I have to sing through that, it's gonna be fun. Because this is more of a synthesizer voice in this case. Clean is more understandable. Clean is more something I can hear the voices.
Narrow is a narrow band of frequency. And the last one, gated, this one now is not formant, is threshold. And the gated is more controlling when the vocoder will work, and the goal is to put the threshold of volume just over the background noise. So this would be useful if you're using the microphone in a room where there's other things happening, like the music is playing, and you want to put the threshold just over the background music, so it only trigger when the voice close to the microphone start to sing volume-wise, and the background does not trigger the vocoder. So that would be useful in that case. But in the case of being in the studio, I would rather switch back to vintage or clean in my case. So it's just going to be a question of which one is the most interesting.
This is just fun. So force you to understand how interesting this could be. This is just a cool way to have a robot voice.
Knowing that if your sound has too much stuff happening, There's so much stuff that it's going to fight with the shaping following the modulator that is the voice. But let's try something else. The one thing I love to try with vocoders is always a drum machine. You go, what? Yeah, okay. Just wait a sec. Input mode, switch to line. So what I have now is drum brute impact. Okay, I've got the sound I want. Go back to 0. That's where it's fun, because now you have the bass line being basically triggered like an arpeggiator, but it's not an arpeggiator, is shaping the bass that I'm playing here. So it just opens up the ideas because you got this weird thing happening. It's just the drum is playing your sound. So vocoder, that's the new part, the new update of the Minifreak. You get the vocoder, and I really dig that. I love the way vocoder become something else when you bring stuff in. So think about your original sound, think about what you're bringing in and the amount of decay, and it'll change everything. That's it. Stay safe, make more music, and see you soon. Bye.